Joining us now to take us through what investors should expect and what the decision might mean for markets, particularly if there's a rate increase, is former New York Fed official and Macroeconomic Advisors Chairman Joel Prakken. And you've also been senior economist at the world headquarters of IBM, and you've held many more positions, Joel. So, well, let's just talk for a second about the Fed interest rate increase. Does it come tomorrow?
Yeah, we're looking for a 25 basis point hike in the overnight interest rate, and it won't be a surprise to anybody, including markets.
What happened so quickly for the markets to turn? We were at 30%, we suddenly went right up to 100%, and from being, something to just watch, inflation became hot, maybe?
Yeah, so let's put this in some context. The Fed has communicated to us that they intend to gradually raise interest rates back to some norm. The process of that rate increase will be cautious because there's uncertainty about what the norm is, and you want to raise interest rates at a time when you think the economy can tolerate it. What's happened recently is the economic data has firmed. Inflation seems to be moving up, whereas a year ago there were some concerns that it was slipping down. Measures of inflation expectations have been firming. The unemployment rate has dropped a little bit. So there's an opportunity here to take the rate increase while the economy is giving it to you.
Yeah, but is the economy running hot, Joel? I mean, your own survey, your own forecasts are just saying, the unemployment rate undershoots full employment but falls to 4.1, but only by mid-2018.
Hot is a matter of term. It's growing faster than the sustainable rate, which we would put somewhere a little under 2%. Our projection is for GDP to grow above 2%, and that means the unemployment rate, which is already close to full employment, will continue to decline. And my expectation is, and something I'll be looking for after the meeting, is that the FOMC will revise its own macroeconomic projections to be a little bit firmer, probably show a little bit lower pathway to unemployment rate than the previous set of projections, sort of paving the way for future rate increases when the opportunity arises.
You're looking for 3 hikes in 2017, so you're not expecting the economy to, obviously do more than 2% growth, modestly above potential, and you say that's weak potential. You're looking for a recession within 5 years.
It's a possibility. So economic research suggests that recoveries do not die of old age necessarily. But the work that we've done suggests that the maturity of the expansion, the state of the expansion matters. In particular, when the unemployment rate falls more than about a quarter percentage point below what most economists would term full employment, the probability that a recession begins within the next 2 years has historically been more than 50%. So I think there's a good chance that sometime 2018, 2019, we'll be looking at the possibility of a recession, unless policies intervene and change the economic context.
Speaking of policies, one of the reasons why you're looking for a recession is CapEx, and there's a great graphic in your latest report. I think we have a version of that for our viewers. It's restrained, you say, but with upside risk. And look at that. That seems to be pretty restrained to me. 2010 to 2015, it was, below 1%. Where do you anticipate that goes, even if we get plenty of domestic, animal spirits out of the Trump administration?
Well, so let's first talk a little bit about why those numbers have been so weak for the last 6 or 7 years. Part of the reason is that investment is driven by the pace of technical advance, what economists sometimes call total factor productivity growth. It's been abysmal, so that's been a restraining factor. In addition, over the last 20 years, but up until 5 years ago, the relative price of capital goods have been declining. Interest rates, which spur capital investment, have been declining, and Congress has passed a variety of tax incentives for investment, bonus expensing, among other things, that have pushed investment up. All of that came to a stop with the Great Recession. Prices stopped declining. Technical advance really slowed dramatically. There was a lot of excess capacity. Firms didn't want to invest. Going forward, eventually there'll have to be some recovery in investment if firms want to be able to meet the increases in demand for output that are going to naturally occur even with growth as modest as 2 to 2.5%. If in fact
if immigration is clamped down upon and there's a border adjusted tax brought in, then will companies spend, or will they be afraid to spend in case there's wage pressures?
So which do you want to handle first there, immigration or the border tax adjustment?
Well, aren't they all part of the same thing for corporations?
They are all part of the same thing. Let's start with the border tax adjustment for your viewers. Under the border tax, imports would be taxed, exports wouldn't. That seems like something that would encourage a significant increase in net exports, which would be good for manufacturing. But trade theorists argue that the exchange value of the dollar will rise by exactly the amount necessary to sterilize any impact on trade flows. Businesses don't believe economists on this issue. They think that their taxes will go up if they're importers. They think that their taxes will go down if they're exporters. They don't believe the exchange rate will move enough to hold them harmless. So they're very suspicious of the border tax adjustment, particularly import-intensive companies. It would be sort of an experiment to try something so dramatic. And while in principle we could end up at the right place a few years down the road, the transition from here to there is sure to be messy.
Okay, that's interesting and very important to remember. I have to ask about ACA, because when you worked at the CBO, you did work on a panel, an outside panel that had to do something like this. Explain us.
I had the privilege of serving on a panel of outside economists that CBO consults with on a regular basis. So I'm not a healthcare economist, and I can't weigh in on the pros and cons of any particular proposal, but I can say unambiguously that my experience with the CBO is that they were professional and unbiased and quite transparent in the methodologies they use to arrive at their conclusions.
Of course.
And if the White House is unhappy with CBO's projections, it would be up to them to produce opposing projections.
Have you looked at AHCA, though, and what it might mean for growth, for GDP growth? If were it to, be enacted as it is now?
Well, it has a tax cut in it as it stands, so that would be a stimulus. But the CBO, I think, will argue that if you take away the Affordable Care Act, the incentives that are in it to encourage withdrawal from the labor force would be removed, and you could get some higher participation rate down the road. So I think, I haven't looked at the CBO score, it probably is in there. They probably say that it's a modest plus for secular growth over the next decade.
All right, we have to leave it there. Joel Prakken.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Macroeconomic Advisors Chairman there.
Morning, great interview coming right up. Ben Ackerman cuts his losses.